Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe, turn post notifications on, and comment below. Today's discussion will be about the second classification of fallacy, which is the fallacy of weak induction. The second sort of informal fallacy is known as the fallacy of weak induction. The fallacy of weak induction occurs when the relationship between the premise and conclusion is insufficient to provide an adequate justification. The premises in the weak induction fallacy may be worthwhile, but they are insufficient to justify the conclusion. The weak induction fallacy is common in inductive arguments with definable forms, such as those based on analogy, generalization, authority, sign, and causal inference. If such inductive forms have a defect in their reasoning, the argument is said to be fallacious, or more particularly, a weak induction fallacy. There are 6 fallacies associated with the fallacy of weak induction. The first fallacy that belongs to the fallacy of weak induction is the appeal to unqualified authority. 9. Appeal to unqualified authority. Appeal to unqualified authority is an instance of authority argument, and it is said to be fallacious or committed when the stated authority fails to have knowledge in a certain field. And it is also committed when the claimed authority makes a biased claim in favor of something. Example 1. Mr. Biden, an economist, who argues that music enterprises are a key factor in harmonious interaction across cultures. As a result, we may infer that our lives would be disastrous without music. And we must consider the importance of music in our everyday lives. The fallacy of authority is committed in this argument, because Mr. Biden's expertise as an economist does not necessarily make him an authority on the role of music in society. While his opinion may be valuable, but it is not necessarily a definitive or proven fact. That music is the major reason for peaceful interaction among societies. Example 2. Mr. Menelik originates from a Jewish family, and he argues that the only path out of this world's misery and into heaven is via Jewish religion. As a result, the only true way to heaven is through the Jewish faith. Mr. Menelik makes an appeal to unqualified authority in this argument, especially by claiming prejudice. Being from a Jewish family and growing up in the Jewish faith led him to believe that being Jewish or following the path of the Jews was the only way to paradise. 10. Appeal to ignorance fallacy. The appeal to ignorance fallacy arises when someone claims that a conclusion must be true because there is no evidence to the contrary, or that a conclusion must be incorrect because no one has proven it to be true. Examples. 1. No one has ever proven the reality of Santa Claus. As a result, Santa Claus does not exist. Example 2. Mr. Seaman is doing an excellent job as a team leader, since no one has ever complained about him. In the first argument, the arguer concludes that the existence of Santa Claus is inaccurate, because no proof exists. The arguer in the second scenario asserts that someone is doing a fantastic job, since no one has complained about him. And this is a fallacy that stems from ignorance. 11. Fallacy of hasty generalization. The logical error of making a claim based on an amount of data much too small to verify the assertion is known as the hasty generalization fallacy. Or it is essentially making a claim based on evidence that is just insufficient. Examples. 1. I ate shrimp at 5 hotels in Canada, and did not enjoy it at all. As a result, it is reasonable to assume that there are no reputable hotels in Canada that serve shrimp well. In this example, the arguer chose 5 hotels that are not excellent at providing shrimp and then concluded that no Canadian hotels are good at serving shrimp. Having visited 5 hotels does not imply that all hotels in Canada are bad. As a result, the argument committed the mistake of unfounded generalization. Example 2. My father and brothers never helped with housework when I was a kid. Therefore, in the house, all males are worthless. In this argument, the chosen sample begins at home, namely with her father and siblings. And she concludes that all men are worthless when it comes to housework. And this reasoning is obviously incorrect since the sample size is insufficient to draw the conclusion that all males are worthless in the home. 12. False cause fallacy. The false cause fallacy is a type of causal inference, in which the argument appears to flow from cause to effect, when there is in fact insufficient evidence to think that a causal connection occurs. The false cause fallacy is classified into three parts. 1. Post hoc, ergo propter hoc. 2. The non causa pro causa fallacy. 3. Oversimplified fallacy. 1. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. Post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy is a Latin word translated in English as after this. This fallacy is committed when the arguer claims that an event that happened before is presumed to cause the next event just because it happened before, and not for any other reason. And this fallacy has the following form or structure. A cause is B because A happened before B. Let's see an example. Our team has gotten worse since we stopped coming to Old Trafford. To avoid such complications, we must demonstrate our support for our team at Old Trafford. Having stopped attending Old Trafford Stadium is considered one of the key reasons in this argument, and leads to another result, which is that our team has been growing worse. And the arguer claims that in order to replace its winning feeling, we must attend every game at the stadium. 2. The non causa pro causa fallacy. 3. Oversimplified fallacy. 1. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. Post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy is a Latin word translated in English as after this. This fallacy is committed when the arguer claims that an event that happened before is presumed to cause the next event just because it happened before, and not for any other reason. And this fallacy has the following form or structure. A cause is B because A happened before B. Let's see an example. Our team has gotten worse since we stopped coming to Old Trafford. To avoid such complications, we must demonstrate our support for our team at Old Trafford. Having stopped attending Old Trafford Stadium is considered one of the key reasons in this argument, and leads to another result, which is that our team has been growing worse. And the arguer claims that in order to replace its winning feeling, we must attend every game at the stadium. Therefore, the argument is a post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy. The second classification of false cause fallacy is non causa pro causa fallacy. The words non causa pro causa fallacy is also derived from Latin words, and translated in English as not the cause for the cause. This fallacy is committed when the cited cause for the effect of something is not true in reality. Let's see an example. What causes Ukraine to be defeated by Russia is simply that Ukrainians are greedy at war. In this argument, the arguer purposefully creates a cause for an effect that does not exist in reality. As a result, the argument proceeds from the non cause pro causa fallacy. The last classification of false cause fallacy is oversimplified fallacy. Oversimplified occurs when it is assumed that there is a single, simple cause of an outcome, when, in reality, it may have been caused by a number of only jointly sufficient causes. And this fallacy has the following form or structure. A caused B, therefore, A was the only cause of B. Let's see an example. The absence of qualified experts is the primary reason for Africa's lack of good education. In this case, the arguer just identifies one explanation for the absence of good education in Africa. Yet, whenever the arguer discusses one component and overemphasizes it for the effect of anything, he or she commits the oversimplified fallacy. 13. Slippery slope fallacy. The slippery slope fallacy is a logical fallacy that claims one event or action will lead to another, more extreme event or action. This could be by directly causing that follow-up event, setting a precedent for it, or simply creating an environment where that follow-up event can occur. Slippery slope fallacy has the fooling structure. If event A occurs, that will lead to negative outcome B, which causes negative outcome C. Example. If students are permitted to use their phones to check the time while taking an exam, they will no longer purchase a local watch. The discontinuation of purchasing watches leads to clothing retailers. Finally, we all had less business, which harmed our local economy. The slippery slope fallacy is committed in this example, because there is no clear causal connection between these events. As there are many factors that could influence the decision to buy a watch or the success of clothing stores. The argument makes a series of unfounded assumptions, and implies that one event will inevitably lead to another, without providing evidence to support this claim. 14. Weak analogy. The weak analogy fallacy is committed when two things that are being compared aren't really alike in the relevant respects. The analogy is weak, and the argument that relies on it commits the fallacy of weak analogy. Example. The government is like a ship, and the president is like its captain. If the captain makes the wrong decisions, the ship will sink. This argument uses a weak analogy, because the president is not exactly like the captain of a ship. The responsibilities and functions of the president are not like those of the captain of a ship. The president is responsible for large decisions affecting the entire nation, not just the navigation of a ship. Therefore, this analogy is not strong enough to support the argument that the president's wrong decisions would lead the nation to sink.